Chapter 10. Occupations and Missions of Spirits. Question 558. Have spirits anything else to do but work out their own personal improvement? And the answer: they cooperate in the production of the harmony of the universe by executing the volitions of God, whose ministers they are. Spirit life is a continual occupation, but one that has nothing in common with the painful labor of the earthly life, because there is in it neither body fatigue nor the anguish of bodily wants. Question 559. Do inferior and imperfect spirits also serve any useful end in the universe? And the answer is: all have duties to fulfill. Does not the lowest mason concur in the building of an edifice as really as an architect? Question 560. Has each spirit special attributes? And the answer: we all have to inhabit all regions and to acquire a knowledge of all things, by presiding successively over all the details of the universe. But as is said in Ecclesiastes, there is a time for everything. Thus one spirit is accomplishing his destiny at the present day in your world, another will accomplish his, or has already accomplished it, at another period upon the earth, in the water, in the air, etc. Question 561. Are the functions discharged by spirits in the economy of things permanent on the part of each spirit, or do they constitute the exclusive attributes of certain classes? And the answer: all spirits have to ascend all the steps of the ladder in order to attain perfection. God, who is just, has not willed to give science to some without labor, while others only acquire it through painful effort. Kardec adds, thus, among men, no one arrives at the highest degree of skill in any art without having acquired the necessary knowledge through the practice of that art in all of its degrees, from the lowest upwards. Question 562. Spirits of the highest order, having nothing more to acquire, are they in a state of absolute repose, or have they too occupations? And the answer: can you suppose that they remain idle through eternity? Eternal idleness would be eternal torture. Follow-up question: what is the nature of their occupations? And the answer: they receive orders directly from God, transmit them throughout the universe, and supervise their execution. Question 563. Are spirits incessantly occupied? And the answer: incessantly, yes, if it be understood that their thought is always active, for they live by thought. But you must not suppose that the occupations of spirits are similar to the material occupations of men. Their activity is in itself a delight, through the consciousness they have of being useful. Follow-up question: that is easily understood as regard good spirits, but is it the same in regard to inferior spirits? And the answer: inferior spirits have occupations suitable to their nature. Would you entrust intellectual undertakings to an ignorant laborer? Question 564. Are there among spirits some who are idle or do not employ themselves in anything useful? And the answer: yes, but that idleness is only temporary and depends on the development of their intelligence. Certainly there are among spirits, as among men, some who live only for themselves, but their idleness weighs upon them, and sooner or later the desire to advance causes them to feel the need of activity, and they are glad to make themselves useful. We speak of spirits arrived at the point at which they possess self-consciousness and free will, for at their origin they are like newborn children and act more from instinct than from a determinate will. Question 565. Do spirits examine our works of art and take an interest in them? And the answer: They examine whatever indicates the elevation of incarnated spirits and their progress. Question 566. Does a spirit who has had a special occupation upon the earth, as a painter or an architect, for example, take a special interest in the labors which have formed the object of his predilections during the earthly life? And the answer, everything blends into one general aim. A good spirit interests himself in whatever enables him to assist other souls in rising towards God. Besides, a spirit who has been devoted to a given pursuit in the existence in which you have known him may have been devoted to some other in another existence, for in order to be perfect he must know everything. Thus, in virtue of his greater advancement, there may be no specialty for him, a fact to which I alluded in saying that everything blends into one general aim. Take note, also, that what seems sublime to you in your backward world would be mere child's play in worlds of greater advancement. How can you suppose that the spirits who inhabit those worlds, in which there exist arts and sciences unknown to you, could admire what in their eyes is only the work of a toddler? Follow-up question. We can easily conceive that this should be the case with very advanced spirits, but our question referred to more commonplace spirits, those who have not yet raised themselves above terrestrial ideas. And the answer, with them it is different. Their mental outlook is narrower, and they admire what you yourselves admire. Question 567. Do spirits ever take part in our occupations and pleasures? And the answer, commonplace spirits, as you call them, do so. They are incessantly about you and take in all you do, a part which is sometimes a very active one, according to their nature, and it is necessary that they should do so in order to push men on in the different walks of life, and to excite or moderate their passions. Kardec adds, spirits busy themselves with the things of this world in proportion to their elevation or their inferiority. The higher spirits have, undoubtedly, the power of looking into the minutest details of earthly things, but they only do so when it will be useful to progress. Spirits of lower rank attribute to such things a degree of importance proportioned to their remembrances of the earthly life, and to the earthly ideas which are not yet extinct in their memory. Question 568. When spirits are charged with a mission, do they accomplish it in a state of erraticity or in the state of incarnation? And the answer, they may be charged with a mission in either state. There are wandering spirits to whom such missions furnish much occupation. Question 569. What are the missions with which wandering spirits may be charged? And the answer, they are so varied it would be impossible to describe them, and there are some of them that you could not comprehend. Spirits execute the orders of God, and you are not able to penetrate all of his designs. Kardec adds, the missions of spirits have always good for their object, whether in the spirit state or as men. They are charged to help forward the progress of humanity, of peoples, or of individuals within a range of ideas more or less extensive, more or less special, to pave the way for certain events, to supervise the accomplishment of certain things. The missions of some spirits are of narrower scope, and may be said to be personal or even local, as in the helping of the sick, the dying, the afflicted, to watch over those of whom they become the guides and protectors, and to guide them by their counsels or by their wholesome thoughts they suggest. It may be said that there are as many sorts of spirit missions as there are sort of interests to watch over, whether in the physical world or in the moral world, and each spirit advances in proportion to the fidelity with which he accomplishes his task. Question 570. Do spirits always comprehend the designs they are charged to execute? And the answer, no, some of them are mere blind instruments, but others fully understand the aim they are working out. Question 571. Is it only elevated spirits who have missions to fulfill? And the answer: the importance of a mission is always proportional to the capacities and elevation of the spirit who is charged with it. But the soldier who conveys a dispatch fulfills a mission through one which is not that of the general. Question 572. Is it a spirit's mission imposed upon him, or does it depend on his own will? And the answer: he asks for it and is rejoiced to obtain it. Follow-up question: may the same mission be demanded by several spirits? And the answer: yes, there are often several candidates for the same mission, but they are not all accepted. Question 573. In what does the mission of incarnated spirits consist? And the answer: in instructing men and aiding their advancement, and in improving their institutions by direct material means. These missions are more or less general and important, but he who tills the ground accomplishes a mission as really as he who governs or instructs. Everything in nature is linked together, and each spirit, while purifying himself by his incarnation, concurs, under the human form, to the accomplishment of the providential plans. Each of you has a mission because each of you can be useful in some way or other. Question 574. What can be the mission of those who in this life are willfully idle? And the answer: it is true that there are human beings who live only for themselves and who do not make themselves useful in any way. They are much to be pitied, for they'll have to expiate their voluntary idleness by severe sufferings, and their chastisement often begins even in their present existence, through the weariness and disgust of life. Follow-up question: since they had the freedom of choice, why did they choose a life which could not be of any use to them? The answer: among spirits, as among men, there are lazy ones who shrink from a life of labor. God lets them take their own way. They will learn, and by, and to their cost, the bad effects of their uselessness, and will then eagerly demand to be allowed to make up for lost time. It may be also that they have chosen a more useful life, but have subsequently recoiled from the trial, and allowed themselves to be misled by the suggestions of spirits who encourage them in their inactivity. Question 575. The common occupations of everyday life appear to us to be duties rather than missions, properly so called. A mission, according to the idea we attach to this word, is characterized by an importance less exclusive and especially less personal. From this point of view, how can we ascertain that a man has really a mission upon this earth? And the answer: by the greatness of the results he accomplishes, and the progress he causes to be made by his fellow men. Question 576. Are those who have received an important mission predestined, therefore, before their birth, and are they aware of it? And the answer: yes, in some cases, but more often they are not aware of it. They are only vaguely conscious of an aim in coming upon the earth. Their mission reveals itself to them gradually after their birth through the actions of circumstances. God leads them on into the road which they take for the accomplishment of His designs. Question 577. When a man does anything useful, it is always in virtue of an anterior and predestined mission, or may he receive a mission not previously foreseen? And the answer: everything a man does is not the result of a predestined mission. He is often the instrument of a spirit who makes use of him in order to procure the execution of something he considers useful. For example, a spirit thinks it would be useful to publish a book which he would write himself if he were incarnated. He seeks out the writer who will be the fittest to comprehend and develop his idea. He suggests to him the plan of the work and directs him in its execution. In such a case, the man did not come into the world with the mission of doing this work. It is the same in regard to various works of art or scientific discoveries. During the sleep of his body, the incarnated spirit communicates directly with the spirit in erraticity, and the two take counsel together for the carrying out of their undertaking. Question 578. May the spirit fail in his mission through his own fault? The answer, yes, if he is not of a high degree of elevation. Follow-up question. What for him are the consequences of such a failure? And the answer, he is obliged to begin his task over again. This is his punishment. And besides, he will have to undergo the consequences of the mischiefs caused by his failure. Question 579. Since it is from God that each spirit receives his mission, how can God have entrusted an important mission, one of general interest, to a spirit capable of failing in its discharge? And the answer, does not God foresee whether his general will be victorious or vanquished? Be sure that he foresees all things, and that the carrying out of his plans, when they are important, is never confided to those who will leave their work half done. The whole difficulty lies for you in the foreknowledge of the future which God possesses, but which you cannot understand. Question 580. When a spirit has incarnated himself for the accomplishment of a mission, does he feel the same anxiety in regard to it as the spirit whose mission has been undertaken as a trial? And the answer, no, for he has the results of experience to guide him. Question 581. The men who enlighten the human race by their genius have certainly a mission, but there are among them many who make mistakes and who, along with important truths, spread abroad serious errors. In what way should we regard their mission? And the answer, as having been falsified by themselves. They are unequal to the task they have undertaken, and judging of them, however, you must take into account the circumstances in which they have been placed. Men of genius have had to speak according to their time, and teachings which appear erroneous or infantile in the light of a later epoch may have been sufficient for the epoch at which they were given. Question 582. Can paternity be considered a mission? And the answer, it is undeniably a mission and also a most serious duty, the responsibilities of which will exercise a more important influence upon his future than a man is apt to suppose. God has placed the child under the tutelage of his parents, in order that they should direct his steps into the path of rectitude, and has facilitated their task by giving to the child a frail and delicate organization that renders him accessible to new impressions. But there are many parents who take more pains to prune the trees in their gardens and to make them bring forth a large crop of fine fruit than to train the character of their child. If the latter succumbs through their fault, they will bear the punishment of their unfaithfulness, and the sufferings of the child in a future life will come home to them, because they have not done their part towards helping him forward on the road to happiness. Question 583. If a child goes wrong, notwithstanding the care of his parents, are they responsible? And the answer is no, but the more vicious the disposition of the child, and the heavier their task, the greater will be their reward if they succeed in drawing him away from the evil road. Follow-up question. If a child becomes a good man, despite their negligence, or bad examples of his parents, do the latter obtain any benefit therefrom? And the answer, God is just. Question 584. What can be the mission of the conqueror, whose only aim is the satisfaction of his ambition, and who, in order to attain that end, does not shrink from inflicting the calamities he brings in his train? And the answer, He is generally only an instrument used by God for the accomplishment of his designs, and these calamities are sometimes a means of making a people advance more rapidly. Follow-up question. The good that may result from these passing calamities is foreign to him who has been the instrument in producing them, since he had only proposed to himself a personal aim. Will he nevertheless profit by that result? And the answer, each is rewarded according to his works, the good that he has wished to do, and the uprightness of his intentions. Kardec adds, spirits while incarnated have occupations inherent in the nature of their corporeal existence. In the state of erraticity or of dematerialization, their occupations are proportioned to their degree of advancement. Some of them journey from world to world, acquiring instruction and preparing for a new incarnation. Others, more advanced, devote themselves to the cause of progress by directing the course of events and suggesting propitious ideas. They assist the men of genius who help forward the advancement of the human race. Others incarnate themselves again with a mission of progress. Others take under their care individuals, families, societies, cities, countries, and peoples, and become their guardian angels, protecting genies and familiar spirits. Others again preside over the phenomena of nature, of which they are the immediate agents. The great mass of spirits of lower rank busy themselves with our occupations and take part in our amusements. Impure and imperfect spirits await in sufferings and anguish the moment when it shall please God to furnish them with the means of advancing. If they do harm, it is through spite against the happiness which they are not yet able to share. For those interested in learning more about Spiritism, you can find the entire The Spirits book on PDF. Look up Allan Kardec /PDF on your favorite search engine. If you wish to explore more about the levels of heaven and the attributes of a spirit and the future of earth, I suggest you read my series of 3 books, starting with Heaven and Below, next Spirits and the Spirit Universe, and the 3rd book, How Spirits Guide Us. God bless.